Now I'd like to return to lines 45 and 48 in our code here, where if you'll recall, in both the if and the else if branch of the code that we have, we've created an entry object. So this part of the grid, there is a box that the user could type in, and presumably when the user types into that box, we want to know what they've typed there, and we want to update the contents of our cell object. But we don't know when the user has done this until there's some sort of notification from the user that they are done in that cell. So typically, if you were typing in any kind of online form and you want to submit your answer, you would hit the enter or the return key. And so that's the first part of line 45 that I want to take a look at, is this return in parentheses here. So the first component of this bind function that we'll discuss in a moment is an action that we want to see happen, and that action is being attached to the entry object that we've created. In the second component, what we're meant to put is the action that we want to take, or the next steps of the program that we want to execute once we understand that this has happened. And what's in the parentheses here is a little bit confusing, but in essence, what I want to do is, should the user hit the enter key or the return key, I'd like to call a function, and I would like it to do something. And that's what's all written at the top of this code, is exactly what I want to happen once the user clicks that enter key. In essence, I want to update everything inside of the cells mainframe. And that's what I'm doing in lines 45 and lines 48, is to each thing that I've called label. So whatever label I've created, I want to permanently attach or bind this action and this consequence of the action to that particular entry. So that's what's going on here. The thing that gets a little bit confusing is what we have in this second component, which is the consequence of this action happening. And the consequence is I want to call a function. Now, what I've had to do is a little bit of an annoying step that it's not worth getting into the details on in this video, but I called it helper because basically what I have to do is create an intermediate step for very technical reasons. So I made this function up here called helper, which doesn't really do much except replace this code with a call to what I've defined to be the color function, because in essence what I want to do is change some colors around in order to update the board. And what I need is I need the row that I'm on, I need the column that I'm on, that's what the R and the C are for, and then the X, if you see what it is, I've passed label. So in other words, I need the cell. So I need to call this new function that I've called color, and I need to pass it the cell that I'm working at, the entry that I'm working at, and the row and the column, or in other words, the I and the J value that I'm working in, so that I know what to update in my cells list. So that's where we're going to go to next. In our next video, we're going to jump up to the color function, and we're going to see what precisely the color function does. Although the main description of what the color function does is it really just works to take that entry from the user and update every cell that has something to do with that new entry. That's really all it's doing, but the code for that can get a little bit messy, so we'll want to walk through that next.